Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Real Chumps. I am your host, Marcel, and with me is, as always, is my co-host, Danny.
As it comes up to its 10-year anniversary, we will be discussing Iron Man 3, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle. That's how you say his name?
Don Cheadle, yeah.
Man, I nailed it again. Guy Pearce, Rebecca Hall, and Ben Kingsley. And honestly, I was very excited to revisit this film. But first, this is a question that's actually not quite pertaining to like Iron Man 3 like we normally do. But I recently was doing something and I realized that I still have a collection of DVDs. So do you still buy DVDs?
Yes. Blu-rays, but yeah.
Yeah.
I still buy them.
I
have a collection of it. People make fun of me for it.
That's tragic.
It is tragic.
I have a hidden miss relationship with buying DVDs.
Okay.
I feel like DVDs are the worst form of media, like format, because if you scratch it, or if there's like a very particular scratch that happens to it, it's gone.
Right.
I mean, you can repair it, but like it's kind of one of those weird things. I've had a couple of DVDs gone bad, and it's like it's pained me. And so I've done quite a few. And a lot of the movies I've purchased recently have been just digital, but I have a love-hate relationship with it because technically I don't own it still. There's like some weird law thing,
Right. Yeah.
that is like
At any point they can like take it down.
technically
from
they can remove it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is still unclear how that really plays out, like what wise. And so I've had this weird thing. I'm like, I've gone on both sides. I'm like, I just want to get rid of all my DVDs and just have it all digitally, so I don't have to like carry all this stuff, these things around.
Sure.
But I've been on the flip side where like I should just buy all these freaking like Blu-rays because like I'm like anxious about that whole situation. So I wanted your thoughts.
Yeah, so I still buy Blu-rays, right? And come like Black Friday, I know people like get excited for like electronics. I get excited for Blu-rays.
Yeah, because you can get freaking the best deals.
You get them for like $5.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I usually buy like a big bulk of like Blu-rays on Black Friday. I have a Movies Anywhere account. You purchase the movie and it comes with the digital version of it, right? And you put it into the Movies Anywhere account. I'm pretty sure that I have movies that have been removed from Movies Anywhere
Really?
digitally. Yeah, and I'm glad that I have like the physical copy of it. I don't know like the legalities of it all, but
Well, I don't know either. And I really want to do a deep dive on it because I think that it would be a really great thing for me to learn, but also to share with people and kind of like maybe bring up a thing that's a concern that no one probably is talking about right now.
oh yeah.
Anyways,
Go buy physical media. Like
I mean, I don't know what the cut is. I don't know what the breakdown is. Part of it for me has been like convenience of just being able to like have it, digitally.
Mm-hmm.
But there is that thing for me that I'm like, I should really be buying these as Blu-rays and having them.
Yeah.
But it comes with the storage, and I'm like in a 3-bedroom townhouse, and it's like you're like bringing out the buckets of like like the tubs.
Yeah.
Anyways, so one of those things.
I have a question for you about Iron Man 3.
Okay, let's go.
Of all the Iron Mans, like of all the Tony Stark suiting up as Iron Man, what's your favorite?
Oh, that's a really fantastic question. Okay. It's probably going to have to be a tie between the first one with the Mach 2,
Okay.
the silver
one.
in the one,
Yeah.
or the Hulkbuster. I guess it's like him suiting up on a suit up.
Do we see him suit up in that one?
So he's already in his Iron Man suit,
Right.
but he ends up like
Inside the Hulk
so it's like it's another Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know, but I can't remember how he suits up in Civil War, because I think there's a unique one in that one too. But it's been a while since I've seen it.
There's one where he's like in like a helicopter flying vehicle.
Yeah.
And like he sits down and like he pushes the button, the seat goes backwards and like it all puts on, and then like he like gets like ejected out of the back. That one is cool.
Is that that's Civil War too?
No, yeah, that's Civil War. Yeah,
Because like the Hulkbuster's in Civil War, right?
no, that's in
No, that's in
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, yeah.
No, no. That's in Endgame.
No, man, that's Age of Ultron.
The Hulkbuster?
Yeah, that's when
You're right.
Wanda messes with the Hulk's
Hulk's brain.
brain.
It's been such a long time since I've seen Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron's good.
It's one of my.
I like it.
It's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. Mine is hands down Iron Man 2, the briefcase suit.
The briefcase suit is pretty sick.
I love that briefcase, man. Like he just puts it down, opens it up, just like it's so clunky and so yeah, it's so clunky, but I love it.
I like that suit up, but I think the struggle that I have is actually the actual suit itself because it's a different style of suit. It's a little bit more like layery.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like I think that's probably the one, but it's satisfying to watch.
It's so satisfying. And like it takes like 45 seconds for him to like fully like be in it, but it's so cool. I will say I hate the nanotechnology.
I do too. I didn't like it. The one I like the most is probably this one. And in Civil War, he's got like it's not nanotechnology yet, but it's like he's got
like the watch, right?
it's like compressed or whatever.
okay.
So like but it's like it's similar to his watch where he like he pops it and he has that, which I think is
cool.
is awesome. And this movie actually just reignited the fact that why I love Iron Man because it's so like I mean not that I'm like super smart at all, but that it's like engineering can really make powerful things.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things like Iron Man's. It's similar to Batman, I guess, like where brains try to like trump things, whereas Batman is more like low tech. You know, Iron Man's high tech.
It's high tech. Yeah, yeah.
Anyways,
cool. Good choices. I'm not surprised this one. Yeah, good choices. I always judge you hard with your choices, man.
it's true. It's true. I've been thinking about putting compilations for supercuts of us freaking out or like you just can't fully understand why I would make that decision.
That was good. Let's talk Iron Man 3.
Let's go.
We're in May. It's coming up on its 10-year release, which I can't believe it's already been 10 years. And I wanted to revisit this because I saw it when it came out. I'll talk a little bit about my experience. I saw it when it came out. I had some issues with it, which we'll address. And I did not see it since, like, I think I revisited for the first time since it came out like 5 months ago.
Wow.
And not because I was like, oh, I hate this movie. I think it was just like, I've seen it. Let's move on. I enjoyed it. There were some issues that I had with it. I don't have to revisit it.
Okay, let me give you my.
Yeah.
I also watched it in theaters.
Okay.
I also wasn't fully in love with it. But I remember, I think I mentioned this but I rewatched all of them in chronological order with my wife. And I remember getting into this one and being like, okay, let's, I'm going to watch it. But for whatever reason, it connected with me just better. And I once again am reminded the fact that like movies are meant to be rewatched.
Oh yeah.
Whether they are fully rewatchable or not can depend on each movie. But some of them are meant to be. You should watch them a little bit more than we are.
Yeah.
And others can be watched every 10, maybe 20 years if rewatched.
Are we talking about This Means War?
So bad. Anyways, but I remember leaving the theater kind of like unsure about it. But when I rewatched it several years ago, it like just hit home better. I think I like understood it more.
Sure.
And I think part of it was because like I was looking at it in like the whole scheme of it. And this time even more, I looked at it more deeply and I, again, really appreciated watching it.
Okay.
And so I think I'm excited to get into it. And where do you want to start? Because you have, in the show notes, we have some good stuff to talk about. Where do you want to start?
Actually, I didn't write this. I want to start with what it is that we didn't like about it.
I was going to recommend we start there.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple things. So going into it, we knew that this was going to be directed by Shane Black, famous for the Lethal Weapon movies. And I think that's at that point, that's what I knew him for. So I was excited about that. This was also a point where, based on Robert Downey Jr.'s contract, this was his last movie. And they hadn't renegotiated anything for him to be in anything else.
Correct.
But at this point. And so I went into it thinking like, okay, this is going to encapsulate Tony Stark and Iron Man, and not necessarily like kill him off, but like some kind of conclusion. And I think my mistake was like, you had the Dark Knight trilogy come out, which was a very clear beginning, middle, and end story, right? Very contained.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think looking at that, I was like, maybe that's like, I think that's kind of what I wanted. And also, this is the first movie, this is the first like superhero comic book movie that gets to a third film that I wanted like a resolution. Because like X-Men, that movie was, it was disappointing.
Yes.
The third one, right? Spider-Man 3 also was disappointing.
Oh man, dude,
And they didn't make more, right? And so like this one, I was like, no, they've done great movies. There's going to be a good like
resolution,
right? And not that there isn't, but I think I wanted kind of a very defined resolution here.
You wanted something different.
Yeah. Whereas this one ends and it's like, is he still part of the MCU? Like at that point when it had come out, right? Because we didn't know about the contracts, and so like that was one thing. I just felt like I wanted like a good conclusion to Iron Man. Second, I mean we'll talk about the whole Mandarin aspect. I mean they had been teasing the Mandarin since like the first movie.
I know.
And like at this point they hadn't really leaned into magic, the MCU, and so in the trailers when you see Ben Kingsley be this like threatening terrorist in the movie, like the way they cut those scenes and they portray him, it's like, oh man, this guy is like, this guy's a real deal. And I also really liked about the first Iron Man was like, there's like a comment in the second Iron Man movie where he says like he single-handedly like got rid of like terrorism in the world, right? And so I like that aspect of like Iron Man focusing on like war crimes and like terrorism and that aspect, right? So when that wasn't it, like I felt deceived as an audience member because of the trailers. I understand what they were trying to do, like to lead us one way and give us a twist. But to me at that point, I was upset. I was like, I was deceived.
I'm not gonna lie, I still feel deceived.
Okay.
Do you?
I don't know if I feel deceived anymore. I still feel upset.
Maybe that's what it is. For me, I think I'm still upset about it. It's what it comes down to. Like, because I think I 100% agree with you. I remember going to this film and leaving. Not like, I mean, when you go to a movie in a theater, you're seeing this for the first time. It's a big screen. There's a lot of other people. Being able to capture every little thing is very difficult.
Yeah.
Like, just granted. So, like, it's not to fault to, like, the way they did it. I mean, it's a great film. But at the end of the day, when you're first watching it, like, it feels like there's an end, but it wasn't the end that, like, I feel like at least I and maybe a couple other people didn't feel. Avengers had come out, right? This is like the first film.
This is the first film to start phase 2.
Correct. Yeah. And because of that, like, I think that for me, it was like when I left the theater, I remember thinking like, is he just like, he's done and he's like, there's no more Iron Man? Like,
yeah. Because
one, it was a huge thing for me as an Iron Man lover, like to see the Hall of Armors.
Yeah.
You know, like his giant cave thing. of seeing all the different armors and then them being like just destroyed to kind of start fresh. It was just kind of one of those things where like I was like, what's happening next? Which again, there was a lot of contract things and we weren't sure how things go. And let's be honest, like this idea of what an extended cinematic comic book universe was going to be was still very, very new.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the gripes that I had, I've kind of gotten over, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. But for me, the biggest thing that still like just kind of like hits me is like the thing that brings this movie down is the fact that they had this weird character that like is super strong. And then when you get introduced to him really, is just, it kind of like, because even in the situation when he's introduced, when Tony Stark comes into the room, he's with the gun and there's females in there and he comes out of the bathroom and he's like, don't go in there. I also did a doozy. I'm like, it just like kind of completely pops the rest of the film for me.
And it changes the tone of the movie changes completely at that point.
It almost ruins the tone for the film.
Yes. I was watching it this last time, and I'm like, wait, I really like this movie. It's paced well. The action sequences are really good. I love the fact that he's not in the Iron Man suit, right?
Yeah.
And then like the stakes are high, and then Trevor Slattery comes out, and it's just like it feels like an actual smack to the face.
You literally, it does,
and you just kind of go like, wait, what's
happening right now?
Where are we going with this? Right? It's so unique that and for me, it still doesn't hit well with me.
It doesn't,
and
it's tragic because let's get into what is it about this film? What is good about this film? Because there's a lot to be talked about that I think is really fantastic.
100%.
I think for me, let's start with some of the themes, because I think some of the themes are like really some of the bedrock of what makes this film actually fantastic.
Yeah.
And why I think if you haven't watched Iron Man 3 since it's come out, you should. I think one of the biggest things, I mean, you have it right here: identity, trauma, redemption, and the technology of technology, the consequences of technology. I think let's start with the identity and trauma portion, because this is really, to me, watching it again this time, I was trying to, because we've been doing this podcast, which I've been loving to talk about these things, because like a lot of times these are things that just kind of fly through my head and I just don't ever talk about them. But watching it this time, I was just reminded of the fact that like Iron Man is facing a difficult situation because he looked at something that he can no longer ignore.
Yeah.
Right? He's coming out of the Avengers. He's coming out of the void thing.
He saw the other side of like the universe.
Right.
Yeah.
And we now have the entire like cinematic universe, and it's really kind of an amazing thing to rewatch from like the like chronological order of the things. If you've never done it, it's great. But watching it here just as a standalone film, like for me, it feels so real because I can relate to Tony in so many different little moments.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that like he feels held up at night, that he can't even go to sleep. He has to work and do something else.
Yeah.
Because he's got the other thing from his work is weighing on him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And along with that, it's I like how you said like you can relate to him in different little pieces with him. I love that they go into this, like they explore this aspect of like PTSD with him, right? He's having like an identity crisis almost. Like, what is his role as a superhero among all these super powered individuals, right? Like no one else had the same impact or had the same consequences in the Avengers that Tony did. Even looking at like Hawkeye or Scarlet Black Widow, like they're humans, they don't have superpowers, but they weren't impacted by it. And granted, right, you can go into the fact that they're soldiers. They've been around war and impacts of consequences of fighting in war. Tony has not. He's a businessman, right? Go ahead.
But I would argue the fact that like this is who he is.
Yeah.
In the first Iron Man, he faced what was the reality of the situation. And he built a freaking mech.
Yeah.
And then turned it into a more optimized mech and like put an end to terrorism as it led the movie, right? Now he's put face into the galactic impact and what could be of the human race, not just like humans being like aggressive or trying to like whatever. No, like we as humans are inferior, and we're gonna be just like wiped, right? And that him being a person who fixes things. And this is maybe why I really, because like I have a bad habit of it's about the nail when it's not supposed to be about the nail, right? That he feels a great need to like address, but he still has yet to figure out how to do that.
How to do that and how to process internally what he is feeling, what he needs to do, and what he has seen.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that that first time where he's with Rhodey and he gets the anxiety attack.
Yes.
Robert Downey Jr. is great. We know that. Like he's a great actor, but seeing him like just like get those flashbacks from the Avengers movie and like seeing that black hole and the aliens coming out, like, and him having, because I totally forgot. This is the first time we see him having a panic attack, but it's his first time as a character experiencing a panic attack.
Yes.
And so we're experiencing this with him for the first time as viewers and him as a character. So we're pulled into this journey, this trauma immediately with him.
Yeah, we see that because like with Jarvis, he's given him the exposition of like, yo, you're okay, but this is an anxiety attack. Yeah. And I think what it is like we don't really feel it, but rewatching it again as for like the third, I think maybe the fourth time, seeing all the little things that like indicate, especially I've never had a panic attack. I'm gonna come out. I've never had a panic attack, but I have been very stressed. Mm-hmm. Tony is also he has depression in this. Yeah. But his depression manifests in the anxiety and the obsessiveness even more so than he already is, right? He's like made a ton of different suits, right? He's not sleeping. He has his panic attack and is then trying to figure things out. And even then is aggressive.
Yeah.
Right? He calls out the Mandarin because it's touched a nerve on something he like wanted to have be done with.
Which, watching it this time, I'm like, this is probably the worst and dumbest decision any character has ever made in these movies, to be like, hey, here's my address.
Yeah.
Come at me, right? And not like have better security or I like to think that this was a decision made out of you're not thinking straight because of your depression, your PTSD or whatever it is, right? Or you're heated in that moment. And I have close family that that I've seen them have these anxiety attacks, and it's a moment of vulnerability, of unsure what to do, of everything coming at you.
Yeah.
And I love that they kind of address this. I do wish they could have gone a little bit deeper into the whole PTSD aspect of it, but the impact that it's having on his relationships as well, right? With Pepper, and we see that frustration on her part to just be like, you know what, you're sleeping downstairs, like I'm gonna stay up here, or she's good, I'm gonna go sleep downstairs, and we see those impacts and what it's doing to his relationships.
Yeah. To me, like that first act is us realizing and getting comfortable with the fact that like that Tony's struggling, right? But then making a very crazy decision, and then having him, he gets attacked in his home. He tries to save Pepper, and his ex, or the one girl, what's her name?
Maya.
And then getting jettisoned to Tennessee to try to solve this thing because it was a planned or pre-flight plan. And him, going unconscious and then waking up and then realizing he's almost out of battery, right? And honestly, is it Ty Simpkins? Is that
Harley?
Yeah. This kid,
He's great.
is phenomenal.
Yeah. I feel like he was meant to have a bigger role in the MCU, but then come Peter Parker and Spider-Man, that father-like mentor relationship that Tony has with Harley was then pushed aside
Which is
for
tragic.
Peter. It is tragic.
And not only that, but like, and then we're going to have like Ironheart.
Yeah.
Not to say Ironheart isn't a cool character, just because she's in the comic books and she kind of takes a role of Iron Man, doesn't mean that that's the way they had to do it in the MCU, because they set it up so good with Harley.
Yeah. I even when he made that like brief cameo in Endgame, I was like, wait, who's that? Oh wait, that's Harley.
No, it was everyone. I remember having to like Google it.
Yeah.
Like, who's that one guy?
Who's that one kid?
And then realizing that like it was Harley.
Yeah.
Right. But, and then again, and you know what? I didn't even think about that, but like you're 100% correct. Because like it goes back to when you're in that scene in the Endgame, it doesn't go back to Harley. It goes back to Peter.
It goes back to Peter, yeah.
Being like, just like distraught.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, it is what it is executives and trying to figure out like what to do.
Yeah,
but like, honestly, to me, I think it was a missed opportunity.
100%.
Because this movie, like, not only did it create like an even stronger bond to some degree than Peter's character, because like Peter and Peter and Tony have like a very strong bond, especially, I mean, they set it up with him holding like the whole situation, and it's strong. But like, I think back now and think with you just saying that, like, I'm like, holy crap, how much even more it would have been if like Harley somehow would have been like picked up the like Iron Man mantle.
Yeah.
Like, as like he got called on, hey, I need some help, and he gets called in or something. I don't know.
Or even like getting him involved like as an actual like intern at Stark Industries, right? And
Right.
like and see him as like a prodigy in taking over possibly the company eventually, right?
Right.
Like I think maybe you don't need to make him a superhero,
Well,
but
not. Yeah.
right? But or even like a scene in like Avengers. I get it. Infinity War and Endgame, like they're long movies and you have to consolidate, but like it would have been great for like a scene where Harley like makes an appearance and sees Tony's daughter. I forget the little girl's name.
Yeah.
But like maybe just like be there for dinner and like her call him like, hey, Uncle Harley, or like something like that, right?
Harley helps Tony process.
Yeah.
But we also like Harley also has a tough life.
Very tough, right? And it's funny, like I wrote down the line when he meets him, and he's and he tells him like where mom is, where dad is, and Tony just says, "Dad's leave. No need to be a pussy about it."
Yeah. But okay, this brings me to the fact that I feel like this movie, this is the first movie in phase 2. We're now in this technically the phase 2 of like the bigger arc, the next arc of the cinematic universe.
Okay, yeah. I see what you mean.
Okay.
Of the yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, what are the wins from this movie that Ant-Man Quantumanium could have taken notes from?
Bring back your characters, put them in a situation where they're stripped of their powers, of their resources, and make it about the character and their personal challenges.
Could you not have imagined a Quantumanium where Paul Rudd had a similar, even if it was a shorter scene, it was less of the movie, where he had to like deal with, because he, to some degree, he's kind of on like the flip side. He helps save the universe.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's mentioned a little bit, but he like, what does that do for him? For him, to me, like, he wrote a book and tried to process this and whatever
Yeah.
in a different way, and he was okay. But at the end of the movie, we found out he's not like, is he?
No, he's not well. Like,
He's suppressing it.
yeah.
Iron Man, he was also suppressing it, but he was like, he got broken because there was a circumstance. I just think, like, to me, I'm like, how did James Gunn recently put out a thing on the news, or he's saying that there's superhero fatigue. Did you see this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he went back and correct. He's like, it's not about the superheroes. It's about how to like navigate the story of superheroes.
Of the characters. And he specifically calls out, how do we help these characters make them relatable, relevant, and have them grow?
I think this movie is the perfect example of how they can do that.
Yeah.
Because if the writers for Quantumania could have stepped back and said, okay, what do we do how do we like do this with the second act with our characters, and like rewatch this movie? I'm not saying they needed to rehash it, because that's
No.
not what the point is. But the notes that what they did with this film is a perfect way and things for us to recognize what is it that we connect most with characters, the struggles, right? Whether that be they're superhuman or not. Like, what are the human elements or what are the things that we can connect with as humans from the characters?
Exactly. And I think thinking about Iron Man as a whole, for me, my favorite moments with Iron Man, yes, him suiting up, fighting, whatever,
Sick.
awesome. But it's when he has those struggles,
Yeah.
right? When he's in the cave and he's struggling and trying to figure out how to survive, or having the realization that he's created all these weapons that are being used by terrorists, right? In the second one, where Shield comes in and says, no, like, you need to sit down and figure out what your dad is trying to like help you, the message that your dad left behind for you, right? It's those moments. Here, when he is trying to just having these panic attacks, not realizing what to do, and he's stripped away from it. These are the moments that make up the cake, and when he's in Iron Man, that's the icing.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I love that you brought that up, because
that's a perfect analogy.
Ant-Man is just, it did struggle in that aspect.
But what makes me more frustrated is, like, okay, yes, Iron Man 3, it missed the mark a little bit, but I feel like on Ant-Man Quantumania, it's literally this. It's not. They had the same opportunity with what's his actual character name?
Scott Lang.
Scott Lang. Okay. Or even as like maybe, because in this case, it wouldn't even have to be Scott Lang.
Yeah.
It could be a family situation. You know what I mean? Like, I look at this film, and especially us after reviewing Quantumania, I'm like, even to James Gunn and to anyone who's trying to like do this thing, like, it's okay to like wait on like producing a film,
Yeah.
just so that you can like make sure that it feels like we can connect with the characters, right? Because you said it perfectly. The cake is the character, and all the cool superhero stuff is the icing.
Yeah. And we talked about Avatar too. Like, you're in a position
Dude.
where where it's a family. They're pulled away from their tribe, from what they are comfortable with, and you put them in a new environment where they have to struggle, where they have to relearn, where they have to rely on one another. And those are the beats of that movie that hit well.
Let's talk about some of the villains, okay? Aldrich Killian.
Yeah.
Actually, we like him as a villain.
I don't.
Well, I mean, he's a freaking prick.
Yeah. Well, I also don't like. Well, go on.
So I like him as a character partly because what I think makes it worse is that is the Mandarin.
Yeah.
Like, because when you take like his moments would have been better if he was connected to the Mandarin. The Mandarin gave him some, like, helped them solve some of or help weaponize it or something,
yeah.
right? No, it like his moments get diminished because he like hires his buffoon to play a character. Like, it just like it drops the ball because like he's a pretty vicious. He is a person who's vindictive,
Yeah.
right? It's a great villain attribute. He steals he takes the person and adds his like thing to the person Tony loves the most. Like all those things are like, and yes, he's a prick, but also like, why? Who doesn't like a guy who is the villain who like you just want to hate?
Yeah, yeah. And I think great job on Guy Pearce's part. I miss Guy Pearce. I'm like,
Yeah,
he's great. But you're right. I think Killian Aldrich could have been, the character of Aldrich is what Tony Stark could have been.
yeah,
You know, and so I think he's a great antagonist to Tony, right?
right.
Because of those things. But 100%, I think my distaste towards him is because of like
The Mandarin,
the
dude.
Mandarin.
You just get so thrown out of
Yeah.
the situation.
Especially, I hate the scene at the end where like he's got the dragon tattoos.
Yeah.
and then I'm the Mandarin. It was me the whole time. I was reading that apparently he thought of that the day of when they were shooting,
Oh,
and he decided like they kept it in. I'm like, okay.
see, and again, I think that sucks because he made it feel like it makes it feel gross.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't knock him entirely, right? Because like, how can you expect something like a decision there, and then they have to then bring it back? Like, it almost cheapens Shang-Chi,
Yeah.
and they kind of try to redeem it
Yeah, they do.
to some degree, and then it even, I think, it still taints it.
Did you ever see the Marvels one shot?
I did not want to even watch. No,
Because that came out shortly after Iron Man 3. I'm pretty sure within like the same year. But there, like they hint that the Mandarin is still out there and it's someone else and it wasn't Killian. And it's just like, I don't know.
maybe this one move really cheapened where we're at right now.
Ooh, big takes, hot take.
That's a
before
freaking
Danny.
hot take. Because
Okay.
like let's think about this, okay? This movie is a really solid movie.
It's a very solid movie.
I mean, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Which every time I watch it, I'm
Yeah,
like, oh,
totally
dude, this is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I mean, if it's kind of like great because it's heartwarming, whatever, body warming, literally. Anyways, but this one choice to make this character fake has the biggest impact in kind of the kickoff to one of the next phases of movies with Shang-Chi. Okay? In that movie, it's not as jarring, but it's still like, oh, this guy again.
Which to me, I love Ben Kingsley, but when he was back in Shang-Chi, I was just like, why are we bringing Trevor Slattery back?
With the weird, like, I mean, even the creature, like in all honesty, that whole situation could have been like, not, they could have had some other person and it would still been okay.
Yeah.
But the impact of the actual, like, who the Mandarin is
Mhm.
would have been more impacted in that movie, which means that like we would have greater stakes or greater like threat looming on what's going to happen. Now we just have like, oh, the Ten Rings is still alive, and it's going to be run by the sister, and they're going to be involved somehow, but there's just some other organization. You take into account that like Paul Rudd, Scott Lang, that he never really faces what he's him and what the family is could be dealing with, and no real consequence happens.
Yep.
In this one, like, I mean, in Iron Man, like, one could argue that in Iron Man 3, in this one, like, Pepper and Happy could have been killed. But to me, it's about Tony Stark's journey, and he does face it. And he does but does he fully come to terms with that consequence? No, because you look at Age of Ultron.
Yes. I think let's talk about this theme of redemption.
Yeah.
I think Tony, I think this is like the beginnings of the seeds that are being planted for Civil War, right?
Yeah.
He's a dick to Killian at the beginning, right? And that obviously ends up having consequences. He mistreats Maya as well. And so I think when we see him later in Civil War, and that mom approaches him and says like my son is dead because of what you guys did in Sokovia or whatever, I think that's where he's starting to realize, okay, my behavior, my actions are having consequences that, still to this day. But the redemption that he has here, right? He's forced to confront his mistakes, his past mistakes, and then he has to work to redeem himself. Literally work to the point, because he has no Iron Man suit. He has to literally work to face those mistakes in this movie, and I love that.
It's some of the most rewarding moments.
He takes that upon himself to start repairing those mistakes, and we see that, and as well with Pepper, right?
Right.
Again, going back to these relationships that he's having with the other characters, and it's so impactful, and it's so raw, and I love it. And I know a lot of people dislike this movie because there wasn't enough Iron Man. It was too much Tony. But I think that's what makes it so good.
And I think what makes the rest of the MCU like even more impactful.
Yeah.
Because like he comes in, I mean, we have all these other moments that come and take. Then we have Age of Ultron, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Again, a huge repercussion of this, of him facing. He's redeemed himself in the sense of like he wants to repair himself and whatever. But then he wants to try to repair the world.
Yeah.
And what is he trying to do? He's trying to put an armor, or was
an armor around the world.
Yeah. Okay. That has then consequences. Okay. He then, again, this is the reason why he then, when at the end of Endgame, his death is so impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk about this, about how this movie in particular sets the stage for his future appearances, right?
Yeah.
And that's one aspect. I think, again, looking back now, the reason why I didn't like it, or not one, the reason, but one of the reasons that I struggled with this movie was because I just didn't feel like his arc, the 3 movies arc, wasn't really
Finished,
right? But we get that at the end of Endgame, right? And yeah, it took what, another like 3-4 appearances from him, not in his own movie, but another 4 appearances for us to get that. And I love that. I think looking back at it, I appreciate this movie a lot more because it also sets the stage for his interactions. He learns how to become a mentor to Peter with his relationship with Harley, right? I love the scene where he's kind of like, he's fighting the thugs in the mansion with like part of his Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Which I think it then goes also back to what he teaches Peter in the later movies, that if you're what does he say? If you're not,
yeah, you can't, or something about like, can you be a hero without your suit?
yeah, something,
Yeah,
right?
I can't remember what the line is.
And Tony learns that in this movie, right?
Yeah.
He learns that he can still be a hero without the suit.
We've been harping on the fact that like a little bit that like we're a little frustrated with the MCU currently. And I think part of the reason why is because when we look back at this movie, in the moment we were a little frustrated.
Yeah, yeah.
But because of what they're doing, unlike any other movie,
Video, yeah.
story thing that ever came before, they made it this bigger arc.
Mm-hmm.
The struggle that I think I'm having right now is not the fact that they can't do that again. It's that they're forgetting about the moments
Yes.
that we should be connecting to, so that when they look at the bigger picture, we feel it. Because the moment Tony is there with the gauntlet, we've gone on a journey with him.
Mm-hmm.
On with the end of this one, his all the little moments of all the other films, and it's just we don't like watching a film, like especially when it's like a series like this, we carry all like the fun parts, but we sometimes forget about these real moments.
Yeah, yeah.
But if they're done well, they hit hard. And I think that's where I'm like struggling with, because like they've kind of reset themselves for this next thing, but they've lacked these moments in the recent films.
Yes. Let's not reach too far. Look at the Captain America trilogy.
Yeah.
That's a movie that, especially the third one, ends with Civil War. That movie ended, and I felt like we went through a journey with all three movies, and there was resolution.
Yeah.
Even though the movie ended with Tony and Cap not talking, he sends him that note. If you ever need me, you know how to reach out to me. But we look at the character of Captain America, who was a I'll do anything for America, right? Gets injected with the serum, grows. He learns how to manage. Then he has the crisis of the Winter Soldier in the second one, and then in this third one, his values and morals are being tested, but he learns and he learns to trust in himself and to look out for his friends, right? And we see that there's a conclusion there at the end of Captain America, whereas this one at the moment it didn't have it. We get it through the other movies, but at the moment we didn't get it. And I think I think you bring up such a great point that these writers and storytellers in the MCU right now are missing those moments here and now, and we're not getting it.
And again, look, we don't know what the big picture is.
Yeah.
But we didn't know about the big picture then, right? And like, to me, when I rewatch this film and some of these earlier films, I'm reminded how much they cared about making, about telling a good story. There's a difference between making a good movie or like a exciting movie or even a good movie to telling a good story.
Yeah.
Is that another hard take? I don't know. But the thing for me is like right now they're making good movies, but they're struggling with that story.
Yeah.
And I think James Gunn is emphasizing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's trying to take notes with what he's trying to do. Right? I hope, and even Marvel, they might be taking some notes. They're trying to figure out like how to navigate, how to whatever. And it could be that we may look back and be like, oh, you know what? I understand now. But I think the thing for me is that we can look back at these films and we can say we have these strong, like Iron Man, Captain America. These are like the core Avengers. Like, look, we're in it. We've been there. It's gone through. Okay, you have to adapt and you have to change things. But like, give us the stories. Give us conflict with characters, or help us feel for these characters more deeply, so that when like a bigger choice or whatever comes, that we can feel it then.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, I saw that coming.
I saw that coming. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
We could talk about this. We could do another whole nother episode. I think.
Yeah, we could. I want to talk just briefly before we get to our favorite scenes. I love the action sequence in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And huge shout out to Shane Black. He knows how to create tension. He knows how to deliver a good action sequence. And no, I'm not and I'm not just talking like the shooting of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like those moments where it's just Tony Stark in that little town in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And like he's fighting, going over like the counter in the restaurant. Like it's so good. He knows how to move the camera well. He knows how to give us those tension. And this movie's so good. This movie's so good up until freaking the Mandarin.
I just zone out a little bit when that happens. I'm just like, oh, this is the part where I check out for a little. I think this is great.
And excuse me, and also that scene with where they're flying or they're falling out of Air Force One. So good,
dude. It's so many good things.
So good, and I love it. Again, yes, he's in the suit. But he's no Superman. He can't go and catch one, bring him down, and go catch another one and bring him down. He can't, right? So again, you put them in a position where, he has the power, so to speak, but you strip certain elements of him to cause conflict in this action sequence, and then he has to think about it. How are we going to do this?
Yeah,
and it's so great.
Yeah,
it's so good.
I've also realized that like. I guess maybe I did not expect to go with this with the whole anime. Like, I missed Tony Stark's like witty banter
Yeah.
in like these movies. Like he's always like his character is just so good. And Paul Rudd, I think like didn't have enough of that in the Quantumanium, but like in this movie, like he just has some of like not only like lines out of like to quip, but also like him processing through emotion, like you said,
Yeah.
with like, well, there's no need to be a pussy about it, right? The like him like just sharing his feelings through his words,
Yeah.
like just some really good lines throughout this whole film.
I also appreciate, I totally forgot that this is a narrations movie.
Yeah.
I love that. And I hope that at least for the next trilogy of Spider-Man, I really want to go back to that where Spider-Man is narrating his story,
love it.
in this from his point of view, right? I think that's what's missing from the MCU.
I mean, it's a comic book thing, right? You got
We got it a little bit with Ant-Man.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
But yeah, I want more of that.
Yeah.
I really do.
What's your favorite scene?
My favorite scene, I have a couple. I really, really enjoyed, like I mentioned, that the action sequence of everyone falling from Air Force One. They really, those were real para jumpers.
Yeah.
And they had to film that. I think that was so cool. It looks great. The tension, Tony Stark trying to guide them. You guys ever heard of Monkey in a Barrel? It's so great, so good. So I really love that action sequence. But I think my other like favorite scene here is the second time when he's having the last anxiety attack that he has, where he's driving and he's talking to Harley, and then he pulls over to the side and Harley on the phone's like, "Wait, are you having a heart attack? Are you having an anxiety attack?" He's like, "I am now," right? And he's freaking out. He gets out of the car and he's talking it out. And it's such fun and great writing to have an adult man have this anxiety attack and talk it out with a child. And the child being like, and again, Harley is so good. He pauses and he says, "Well, you're a mechanic, right? You fix things." And the light bulb just hits him. And I love that because at the end of it all, that's who Tony Stark is.
Yeah.
We were introduced to that in the first movie, and he has his iconic line of "I am Iron Man."
Yeah.
But like at the root of it all, he fixes things. And that's how he finds comfort. That's how he finds a way to process things, whether that's good or bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But deep down, he is a mechanic and he fixes things. And I love that realization where he has and the interaction between the two.
That's my favorite thing as well. It is so real. It's so universal. And not only that, but like it's a lesson to anyone who's dealing with mental health issues, who might be going through a hard time right now. Like if you are one of those people, like, if you don't want to call the mental health line, I'll put it on screen. Just send us an email. Even if we want, we wouldn't have to. You can even say like, don't respond or whatever. If you need to talk or process it, like you do kind of have to process these things, right? Whether you get a therapist or you have a very close friend or a complete stranger that you feel like you can talk to.
No judgment, no bias, complete strangers. I think sometimes that's the best way to process things.
Right. And I think to me, that moment is like, and sometimes having the other person to be there to like not judge you and kids don't judge.
Yeah.
Right. Like, he just says it as it is. And it helped, sometimes my kids say some of the things that help me realize, I think I shared this the other day. Like I was kind of struggling a little bit with some work stuff. I've started my own business, trying to grow and do things. And my daughter said a prayer, and she was like, I know I'm struggling, but I know that I can keep going. And to me, that was like what I needed. Like I just like, it's okay. I'm just trying, and I can keep going. And that's what that's what Tony's doing. Mm-hmm. He's realizing, he's struggling, but like, it's not the end, and he can keep going.
Exactly. I love that. I
Me
love
too.
that. If you haven't seen this movie, go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
It's
So good.
it's so good. It's been baking in the oven for the last 10 years, and I really enjoyed it a lot more. Yeah, I have those issues, but it's that smart writing, that conflict, that dialogue that just really makes this movie really good.
I
It
mean,
might be my favorite Iron Man. I love the first one.
I was actually thinking the same thing. I was like, I don't know if it's hard to know.
This could have been,
Honestly, I think Civil War is not an Iron Man movie,
yeah,
but I kind of feel like it's like this weird like duo movie,
yeah.
and I kind of like, I don't know.
I would even argue, had it not been for the whole Trevor Slattery thing, I could argue this could have been probably my favorite movie in the Infinity Saga.
Yeah. I hope that when I go back and watch some of the films in these phases of Marvel, that I can go back and say I was wrong.
Yeah.
Like I did with this movie.
Mhm. Yeah.
Only time will tell.
We'll have to do a whole like rewatch
We will.
of them.
We will,
will.
for sure. All right. If you, like Marcel said, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, if you find this podcast entertaining or exciting, it would be great if you could support us by leaving us a review wherever you get your podcast. It really does help the show. Follow us on Spotify. Rate us on Apple and or subscribe to us on YouTube. Really to support the show. We really love talking about these movies.
Yeah, please reach out. We want to hear, what do you like about this movie? What don't you like about it? What did we miss? Let us know your thoughts. If you are listening on Spotify, scroll down. You can see we have some questions, a poll. Let us know. You can also email us at your@realchums.com. And you can connect with us on Twitter as well at yourrealchums.
And Instagram now.
And Instagram. Yeah, we're on Instagram now.
Yeah. So if you want to like ping us in a message there, whatever. But you can follow me on Twitter, Rubio_TV, Marcel at Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
Join us next week. We're going to be talking Princess Mononoke. And we're going to have a special guest with us. And we're excited to talk about this. Our first animated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our first animation.
We're excited. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.